On February 28th, 2005, my life changed completely. A friend said, hey, let's try zip lining. And I immediately locked eyes with my zipline guide for the morning.
I saw her right when I got up to the building. She was there checking in, and it was basically love at first sight.
I just remember those blue eyes, and I was like, I had a hard time talking and kind of stuttered.
From then on, it's just been amazing.
He ended up calling me, by the way. I have to add that. But anyway, our first date was surfing. He taught me to surf in Lahaina. He actually mentioned that he had a really rare eye disease. I'd say probably within the next month is when he opened up a bit more about the things that he's dealt with, all of his life.
Choroideremia, or CHM, is a retinal degenerative disease that leads to blindness. There's no cure for choroideremia, but she was never hesitant at all.
The symptoms of choroideremia are night blindness as a child. Then, as the disease progresses, the side vision is lost, and people develop what's called tunnel vision. It's like looking through two tiny tubes, one for each eye. So you're not seeing what's going on in the periphery.
It's about like that, I'd say. So it's just everything's kind of constricted inward. Things pop out from everywhere that I don't actually see.
That gets worse and worse and worse, and gradually encroaches upon the fine central vision, which affects our color sensation and our ability to recognize faces and read. And that's when all vision is lost. Seeing this progression and knowing that this is happening and that there's nothing to do about it is devastating in itself.
So on a daily basis, I feel like I function pretty well, but I definitely run into all sorts of things. And and I can't drive and can't do a lot of the things that you need to do, just day-to-day life.
Danny is 36, and according to the research out there, by the time he turns 50, he will be completely blind.
Choroideremia has made things much more challenging for me in the last several years. I have 4 young sons, the oldest of which is 9, the youngest of which is 16 months old. I'm pretty busy trying to keep up with them, and from things as little as tripping on toys all over the floor to trying to have a catch with my children, it's become more and more challenging and difficult for me to be able to do so.
You could take this off and open up.
It becomes very emotional for me to not be able to do the things that I'd always envisioned doing with my children, and I see other parents doing for their children. And I have a hard time coping with that in many ways.
My kids are getting older. I've never seen their entire face at one time, but I have to be able to see them as adults. That's my biggest fear, of losing my eyesight with choroideremia.
Nice. This is where blindness helps. I can hardly see your hand.
Don't mess up.
Yes!
Nope. Oh, I made it too. So you play Jacob?
It was actually circuitous how I got here, a stroke of pure luck.
Chris Moen was doing research in her lab when he was in high school.
My project was actually to identify the mutation in the choroideremia gene.
And together we drew blood from all of his family members, and we sequenced the gene, and he found his own mutation. And at that point it became, we've got to find a treatment for this kid. And everybody in the lab felt that way. And that was really the moment that I thought, this is a disease that we have to treat.
It's a real small group of people that are involved with the Choroideremia Research Foundation, but everyone is tied together, and it's like an extended family.
Well, it grew out of an email support group, and over time, various people with choroideremia found this email support group and joined, reaching out to each other and sharing our experiences and trying to help each other live with choroideremia. When we began, there was literally no research going on. We had no illusions. We know research took a lot of money. We know it takes a lot of time, and we were starting from scratch. Our job was to get the ball rolling, and hopefully the next generation will see something before it's too late for them. Now, it might not be too late for me.
So what Jean Bennett's actually doing is she's working on what's called a gene therapy treatment. Basically, any genetic disease does not have to be in the eye. It can be any genetic condition. They've developed ways to alter the genetic mutation that causes a disease at its root.
The defective gene that does not work inside of our bodies, they are delivering a healthy, corrected copy of that gene. And once the body has that corrective copy, it produces the protein that's necessary to keep the eye healthy, and you can maintain your vision.
You take a virus and they pull out all the bad stuff on the inside. They put in the corrected gene, then they inject it into your body. In the case of choroideremia, they inject it into your retina. And then it goes about essentially infecting the cells in your retina. And when it infects them, instead of passing on some sort of illness, it passes on a corrected gene.
At the current time, there are no approved gene therapy treatments in the United States. Choroideremia could be one of the first. When this happens, it will open the floodgates for other groups trying to develop treatments for their disease.
Parkinson's disease to hemophilia to all sorts of retinal diseases, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people, gene therapy is going to be able to help them one day.
It would mean a hope for and a different future, a brighter future for people I care about, and for my brother and my children and their children.
Back in 1994, I was 27 at the time. In the words, I'll never forget them. The doctor said, choroideremia will start slowly taking your eyesight from you until one day you will be 100% blind and no longer to be able to tell day from night. He said, you will never see a treatment in your lifetime. And one of the ways that I was able to deal with it was to throw on a pair of running shoes and to run until I hurt physically so badly that I didn't really have the energy to hurt emotionally. And when I saw an opportunity to take that and translate that into something positive for this cause, I took advantage of it.
Earlier this year in 2014, we launched Team CHM. It's a part of the foundation that basically allows people to raise money through doing sports, whether it's a 5K or a Ironman triathlon. When we decided to do the Ironman, we decided it was a perfect opportunity to use that as a great launching pad for Team CHM. And from that point, people just jumped right on board. Jeff Benelli's been raising money through marathons for years, and once he heard about us doing Ironman, he decided he wanted to up the ante and do 4 marathons in 5 weeks.
When I saw that I could find a race that was actually ending in Philadelphia, at the very place within a mile and a half of where these treatments for the clinical trials would be happening, I thought there couldn't be a better story than that.
I hate running marathons. They hurt so badly, but it's to garnish public aspiration to join in on my cause, and I feel if they see the work that's going into my efforts, that they'll say, hey, I want to contribute because he's working hard out there for his cause, so I want to help him.
I started a triathlon, and in the back of my mind I thought, maybe one day an Ironman, but it's so big, it's so daunting, you don't really believe that you're capable of doing that.
It's going to just keep getting worse and worse. But we're hopeful that...
It is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and a marathon, a 26.2 mile run. Being able to tie that to the fight for choroideremia was a powerful motivator. Once we tied CHM to it, there was just no turning back for me. I knew that we were going to make it.
With the training and being able to perform, I couldn't fathom doing it with even a less degree of vision than I have right now.
All I can see is partial heads and maybe a little bit of shoulders. I see no bodies, I see no arms on an individual, I see nothing else but possibly the bobbing head in front of me. To think that you have a 26.2 mile run ahead of you and you can't even see what's in front of you at that moment, it's a very intimidating situation to be in.
So we are about 65 miles into about a 110 mile bike ride, and feeling pretty tired, but still pretty good. Got some big climbs ahead of us.
In the final weeks of preparing for Ironman, our friend Jeff Benelli was also running 4 marathons in 5 weeks. We would exchange messages with Jeff. He motivated me like nobody else.
Leading up to the actual event, it was kind of strange because we had trained for the whole year, and so 2 days out from the race, I actually got really calm. Race morning came, got into the water, gun went off, everyone starts swimming, looks like a feeding frenzy out there. Somehow, I managed to actually get some clear water. But yeah, I made it through the swim, got into the bike, got off the bike, stumbled along, had some volunteers ask if I was okay. I was careening left and right. I felt fine, but I just couldn't balance. Finally got over, found a seat, sat down, got my running shoes on, and then I kind of had regained my balance. And for the first 13 miles went pretty well, but the second half of the marathon, you go into an Ironman just knowing it's going to be tough, and so when it happens, you're not surprised. Eventually made my way to the finish line.
If there's a big group out there, then I, as an individual, need to do less because this bigger group is out there fixing and solving the problems. So often we hear the word, they are out there looking into this problem. They are out there fixing this problem. And the reality of having an orphan disease, which means that very few people have your disease, is that there is no they group out there. There's no bigger entity fixing that problem. That puts the burden back on the individual. That puts the burden back on me as an individual.
Great job, guys. One more.
Upon completing Ironman, 1 week later was Jeff Bonelli's 4th and final marathon in 5 weeks, across the country in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is the culmination of everyone's effort. 2 miles from the finish line of the Philadelphia Marathon is where the first person in the United States is going to be treated for choroideremia. After decades of work, this is where it's going to happen. So more than a dozen CHMers joined to really push this across the finish line. Funds raised for choroideremia have a major impact. We don't have any major corporate sponsors. We don't have millions of dollars behind a cure for choroideremia. The money that's raised comes from a handful of families and people impacted by choroideremia.
I think the reason why the field is so far ahead with choroideremia is because of pioneers in the Choroideremia Research Foundation, that this has gone forward so quickly. I really think that a treatment is in hand.
Oh my gosh, when we first formed and I would get those phone calls from a mom or dad that had a kid who had just been diagnosed, I would tell them that, we are a small organization and we're starting to raise money and we would like some help and, here's some information. Today, of course, I give them all that same information, but now I can give them hope. Hope. I mean, we didn't have hope.
Even though we're starting out with just a small number, Team CHM is determined and going to make a big difference in the world. We're so close. Everything is there. All the pieces of the puzzle are there to put together, and it's not an option not to see this treatment be there for our friends and my brother and my children's children, and we're gonna get there, but we gotta keep the wheels turning.
A few years ago, I gave up hope that it was going to be in time for me, because at 49, I'll lose the rest of my vision, 5, 6, 7 years, and I gave up hope. And there actually is hope out there now.
I'm down to a small tunnel of vision, and there's still a chance to save what I have left. I can't express how much that means to me, to not have to face that darkness.
My name is Kurt Rahil. I'll be the first patient in the United States to have this clinical trial here at Penn Medicine. This is a very important step so people in the future don't have to go blind.